Hi girls, my name is Sarah. Today I want to share with you one young person's experience of asking the question, who I am. Have you ever asked God, what am I here for? Have you ever wondered why you were created or why you were given the family that you were given, why you're growing up in the place that you're growing in? Have you ever wondered what it is that you are good at, or what exactly the purpose is that you were created for? I want to invite you to open your Bibles with me today to Jeremiah chapter 1. In Jeremiah chapter 1, the Eternal One, God, is speaking to Jeremiah as he's a young person in the beginning of this book. So let's read it together. In Jeremiah chapter 1, we'll start in verse 5. Here the Eternal One starts speaking. He says, "Before I even formed you in your mother's womb, I knew all about you. Before you drew your first breath, I had already chosen you to be my prophet, to speak my word to the nations." So here in verse 5, God is reminding Jeremiah that before he was even born, thought of, or conceived, God knew exactly who he was going to be and exactly what his purpose was. In verse 6, Jeremiah responds to God by saying, Eternal Lord, I'm too young and inexperienced to speak for you." Have you ever felt that way? Have you ever felt too young to speak out about something? Have you ever felt inexperienced or inadequate? Maybe you don't know too much about a certain topic, so you're shy to speak. This is what Jeremiah is saying. He's saying, Lord, I can't be your prophet. I'm too young. Here's how God responds. The Eternal One says, don't use your youth as an excuse. You can and will go wherever I send you. You can and will say whatever I tell you to say. You have no reason to fear the people you speak to, for I am with you and will defend you. Before you were born, God knew you. Before your mom and dad ever knew that you existed, God knew your purpose. God knows exactly what it is that you're good at. God knows exactly what it is that you are going to do in your lifetime. And right now, whether you're entering high school, kind of this new world of learning, whether you're finishing high school and getting ready for college, wondering what it is that you're going to study. Maybe you're in college and hoping that you chose the right courses, or maybe you're just out of college entering the workplace. Whatever stage you're in, God knows that there are times when we feel inexperienced, inadequate, ill-equipped. Those are natural human feelings. But there's a beautiful promise here. It's in verse 7 and 8. Remember, God says don't use your youth as an excuse, because you can and will go wherever I send you. So you might be wondering, where should I go to college? Where should I work? God will send you. You can and will go where he sends you. You might be thinking, how am I going to finish this research paper? How am I going to share this kind of controversial topic at my church with my family? God says, you can and will say whatever I tell you to say. And finally, God says, you don't have to be afraid of the people who you're going to speak to, because I'll go with you and I'll defend you. A beautiful thing about seeking God and knowing God is that God is on our side. And when we are serious about our relationship with God, when we're really asking God to lead us and to give us those words that we need to speak and tell us when to speak them, to give us the ideas of things that we need to do and move us to action when we need to do them, we don't have to be afraid, because God's going to defend us. He's going to go with us. He's going to work through us to be able to do His will in the world. So I just want to encourage each one of you today, as you move in the direction that God is leading you in, I want to encourage you to trust God. Trust God to lead you where He wants you to go. Trust God to give you the words and the actions for where He wants you to speak and what He wants you to do. Trust that God is big enough to lead you where you're supposed to go. God knows your purpose. God knows each step that you're going to take, and He's asking you to trust Him today. I'll share a little bit of my personal experience to show you how the development of my trust in God has sort of accumulated over time. About 7 years ago, I had the idea that I wanted to live and work abroad. So I made some decisions in my life at that time that would hopefully help me to achieve that one day. Little did I know that while that was in God's plan for me to live and work abroad, it wouldn't be until about 5 years later where it could actually become a reality in my life. I never gave up on that dream, but God did show me more immediate ways that I needed to develop my trust in Him, more immediate ways that I could serve my current community. I was living in Phoenix, Arizona at that time. God really showed me some of the work that I needed to do in myself and in my community to be ready for the next things that God was going to provide for me. God had to do some work in my life. In retrospect, I can see so many things that God needed to teach me, that God used other people to teach me, or that God used me to teach other people. Experiences that I never would have had if I had left right when I had the idea to. So learning to trust God's timing in that was really difficult and slow at times, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. So 2 years ago, I was given the opportunity to come here to Hong Kong, where I live now, to teach at Hong Kong Adventist Academy and to have the experience of living and working abroad in a place where I have family, where I'm able to cultivate those relationships and be part of this community here and now. And it's been a really amazing experience to trust God through the different seasons of living and working here. I'll just share with you kind of one of the most recent ways that I learned to trust, which I'm sure we're all kind of learning, is through COVID-19 and the experience of a worldwide pandemic. At the beginning of this year, I decided that I was no longer going to continue homeroom teaching, and I let my supervisor know that I wasn't going to be returning in the fall. And that was around the same time when the virus started spreading here in Asia. And I didn't really know what the next few months was going to look like. I sort of had some plans to do some traveling after school ended in July, and to potentially find part-time work after traveling a bit. But as you all know, travel has become sort of irresponsible in this time because we want everyone to stay safe and healthy at home. So my plan for the summer and the coming year was kind of up in the air, and I really had no idea what that was going to look like. It was in that uncertainty, that feeling inadequate, that feeling like, God, I don't know what I'm going to do, that caused me to seek God's will more intentionally, to really ask and surrender my agenda, to surrender the things that I kind of had planned, and to just say, God, whatever it is that you want me to do, show me and I'll do it. And you know, God has a funny way sometimes of providing us options and saying, okay, here are some options. Whichever option you choose, I'm going to be there with you. I'm going to walk with you. Because really, we can't leave God. We can't leave God's presence if we want God to be present in our lives. So God kind of provided me with a few different options, and through prayer and asking people who I'm close to for advice, I was able to accept a new position at my same school, to be the positive behavior discipline coordinator for the whole school, grades 1 through 12, which is a bit different from what I've been doing for the past couple of years, but it's a new challenge, one that I'm really grateful for. And you know, now that we're into the start of the school year, and I'm working and supporting teachers and students, it's really a blessing, such a blessing, that I was able to trust that God was going to provide something for me. To trust that when I asked God what to do, that He was going to show me, and that He was going to lead me and guide me into that place that He knew was perfect for me. I hope that in some way my experience can encourage and inspire you to continue building your trust in God. Just like Jeremiah was feeling young and inexperienced, unworthy for the calling that God placed on him, you might feel that way too sometimes. But know that God is always going to be with you. He's going to defend you. He's going to give you the words to speak, and He's going to show you exactly where to go and be right by your side the whole way.